Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Code Web Training. Today we continue with our training series on ICD-11, an important milestone in how we classify and report health and disease worldwide. Today we discuss ICD-11 tooling environment with a special focus on ICD-11 basic coding scenarios and coding examples. ICD-11 represents a modern evidence-based framework designed to capture more nuanced clinical concepts, support better patient care, improve public health surveillance, and enable richer data for research and policy decisions. It reflects advances in medicine, digital health, and international collaboration, while remaining rooted in the familiar structure of ICD that you have relied on for years. Over the course of this session and the series to come, we will dive deeper into other features, resources, and tools of ICD-11. As you know, Codeweb training is a foundational introductory resource to help you become familiar with ICD-11 concepts and terminology. It is not a substitute for a comprehensive formal ICD-11 training program. For full proficiency and certification, please pursue an in-depth in-person or formally structured course delivered by recognized ICD-11 training providers. While we introduce ICD-11, ICD-10 remains in active use for many programs during the transition. To support you fully, our CWT program will continue to cover ICD-10 topics in upcoming sessions, ensuring you stay proficient across both coding systems. Thank you for joining this important journey. Together, we will unlock the power of ICD-11 to improve mortality reporting, support better patient outcomes, and strengthen health data worldwide. Let's begin with a high-level tour of what's new, what stays familiar, and how this transition will unfold in your daily coding practice. Today's topic is mastering ICD-11 coding, post-coordination, flexible search, and real-world scenarios. My name is Saman Gamage, and I am a medical doctor with a specialization in public health. I currently serve as a senior technical advisor on medical certification and ICD within the Bloomberg Data for Health initiative of the CDC Foundation. And I will be your guide through this presentation along with Patricia Wood and Yusuf Hamad. The content of my presentation was reviewed by the two coding experts, Patricia Wood and Yusuf Hamad. This is the learning outcome of this video. By the end of the session, the students will competently use ICD-11 coding tools to perform basic searches, construct and validate post-coordinated expressions, and select accurate ICD-11 codes across practical scenarios. This is my lesson plan and how I lined up my topics for today. I will start with a discussion of or reminder of ICD-11 coding tool and features. Then different coding scenarios, search term renders blue highlighted stem code or code combination. Search term renders stem code with mandatory post coordination. Search term renders stem code with optional post coordination. Search term renders flexible search option. If you open ICD-11 home page, you can find the coding tool here. Or you can access it on the browser. This is the coding tool. Now all you have to do is type in the diagnosis into the search box. There are some special icons used in ICD-11 coding tool. Let's learn or refresh our knowledge about these icons. An exact match is represented by a blue highlighted stem code. The stem code is highlighted in blue. When optional post coordination is suggested, it is indicated by a gray plus icon. When the post coordination is mandatory, it is indicated by a red plus icon. If there is a coding note that coders should read and understand or follow, the coding note is indicated by a green icon. Let's go through different scenarios. The one try perfect match. Search term renders blue highlighted stem code. Here we search for Marfan syndrome and blue highlighted stem code identify the exact matches. Here is the exact perfect code for Marfan syndrome, LD 28.01. Here is another example. We want to code dermatitis. Type in the diagnosis dermatitis in the coding tool search window. The search results appear below, and there is a blue highlighted stem code which is the exact match for the diagnosis dermatitis indicated in the among the destination entities. And you check the results for the condition you want. As we know, an exact match will be highlighted in blue. Since this is the diagnosis we are looking for, we will click here. And the selected ICD-11 code appears here. Let's code another diagnosis, cholelithiasis. As you know, cholelithiasis is presence of stones in the biliary system. And we search cholelithiasis using coding tool. Blue highlighted stem code indicates it is the perfect match. And then there is a gray icon indicating optional post coordination. So if you have additional information, you can post coordinate and add codes for the additional information. And gray icon indicates that post coordination is available. So if you have additional information about the manifestation or the cause of the disease, it is possible to post coordinate and add this information to the diagnosis that you have already coded. This is another scenario. Search term render stem code with extension or other stem code. Automated indexing of post coordination dimension for laterality. So this is another wonderful feature of ICD-11 coding tool. And we are looking for the cancer right breast. And there is a blue highlighted stem code indicating this is the correct code for cancer right breast. And as you can see, the laterality is automatically indexed. So you get the stem code and extension code 2C6Z for the cancer breast and then XK9K to indicate the laterality. And blue highlight indicates this is a perfect match. Another scenario, red plus, no skip. As you know, red plus indicates mandatory post coordination. Let's try an example. Let's code diabetic cataract. You type diabetic cataract in the search window. We are in luck. ICD-11 gives us an exact match, a blue highlight and step code 9B10.21. However, be careful, we are not done yet. Always check your search results for the plus sign. And in this case, there is a red plus. Red plus means mandatory post coordination. You remember gray plus means optional post coordination, but red plus means mandatory post coordination. So here there is a red plus, which means we must add another code. Click the red plus to add the post coordinated code. More information appears around this entity. There is a description and there is a coding note as well. Coding note says always assign an additional code for diabetes mellitus. So you have already coded diabetic cataract. The code for diabetic cataract is already there, but you should assign an additional code for diabetes mellitus. So with the symbol reminding us that post coordination is mandatory. Clicking the red icon opens the browser for you to add the post coordinated code. We can now see the entity diabetic cataract in the browser. We can also see where it lies in the hierarchy. Notice the code also not, which means we must also code the cause-in condition for the diabetic cataract. Cause-in condition is diabetes mellitus. However, we do not know whether it is type 1 or type 2. We only know it is diabetic cataract. Therefore, we select diabetes mellitus type unspecified. So we click that option. The ICD-11 code for your selected post coordination appears here, 5A14, diabetes mellitus type unspecified. Our cluster is 9B10.21 for diabetic cataract / 5A14 diabetes mellitus type unspecified. It is a cluster of two codes. Notice how the two stem codes are connected by a /. Another scenario, no immediate match. Search for the right ICD-11 code. Under this scenario, we are going to learn flexible search. Let's try to code cellulitis of index finger. You type cellulitis of index finger in the search window of coding tool, and we get no search results. But there is a blue highlighted term, try flexible search. So we click on try flexible search, and now we get a list of suggested search results. And also notice the reminder that flexible search is on. We have a code, but there is no blue highlight. Cellulitis of finger 1B70.Z. The first option includes the correct condition cellulitis, but the exact anatomy index finger is missing. We know it is the code for cellulitis of finger, but index finger is missing. Remember, our diagnosis is cellulitis of index finger. So always check your search results for the plus sign. Here there is a gray plus, which means we can add more detail if we like. Clicking the gray plus icon opens the browser for you to add the post-coordinated code for anatomy. Notice the use additional code if desired note, which means you can add specific anatomy if you wish to. It is very useful to use the search box. So you can type in index finger, and index finger appears here. Choose from the search results. ICD-11 code for your selected post coordination appears here. XA6NZ0. And here you find the cluster of two codes for cellulitis of index finger 1B70.Z and XA6NZ0. Z0. Notice how the extension code was post-coordinated to the stem code. So this is a combination of stem code and an extension code. Let's go through another scenario. No exact match, then no match. Let's code broken leg after fall in hospital. Here is the search window. We type in broken leg after fall in hospital, and we got no search results. When you get no search results, try flexible search. You click the button try flexible search, and there are search results. So fall in hospital, we get a search result. However, there is a green icon, coding note. So let's check the coding note. There is an instruction to the coders. Code first the injury or harm associated with other healthcare. Code also the cause of harm. That is an external code for other healthcare related causes of injury or harm. So we have been asked to code the injury or harm first before the code for the fall in healthcare or fall in hospital. So we need to look for broken leg first because broken leg is the injury or harm. When this happens, it means you need to break down what you are looking for. Let's look for broken leg first. We break down the diagnostic term and we search for broken leg. Now we get a search result. ND54, fracture of leg, level unspecified, broken leg not otherwise specified, with a blue highlight. Here there is a gray plus, which means we can add more detail if we like. Clicking the gray icon opens the browser for you to add the post-coordinated code. It is easier to use the search box to look for the course fall in hospital. Let's type in fall in hospital in the search box. And we found what we are looking for. Fall in hospital, PL14.E. So here is the cluster code. Two stem codes, ND54, the injury, code for the injury or harm. And then the code for the circumstances, external cause, PL14.E is the code for fall in hospital. Let's go through more examples for flexible search. Here is another example, diabetes type 2 with diabetic nephropathy. And there are no results. Select try flexible search. And you find a code for type 2 diabetes mellitus 5A11. And notice the gray plus icon. And if you click on gray plus icon, so here is the matching term, type 2 diabetes. But with gray plus icon, you can post coordinate because diabetic nephropathy, we have to assign a code for diabetic nephropathy. So post coordination is available and try to look for the manifestation. And you can just type in diabetic nephropathy in the search window. If not, there is an option for chronic kidney disease. And diabetic nephropathy, when we say diabetic nephropathy, we know this is chronic kidney disease, but the disease stage is not specified because we do not know whether it is stage 1 or 2 or 3A or 3B or 4 or 5. Therefore, we select the option GB61.Z, chronic kidney disease stage unspecified. So we have the code string 5A11/GB61.Z, diabetes type 2 with diabetic nephropathy. Final code string 5A11 for type 2 diabetes mellitus, GB61.Z for chronic kidney disease stage unspecified. So this is what we did. We tried diabetes type 2 with diabetic nephropathy, and now we have another diagnosis, type 2, diabetes type 2 with diabetic nephropathy and neuropathy. Again, we can try flexible search. A code for type 2 diabetes mellitus appears here. And let's click on gray plus icon. and post coordinate for nephropathy and neuropathy. As you know, we have already post coordinated before in the previous example for chronic kidney disease, stage unspecified. So this is for nephropathy. And we can also search for neuropathy. You can either use the search window, which is the easiest. If not, you can search in under the complications of diabetes mellitus and you get the code for diabetic polyneuropathy 8C03.0. So here we have the post coordinated codes for chronic kidney disease stage unspecified, and then there's another code for diabetic polyneuropathy. So a cluster of code appears here, a cluster of 3 stem codes. The final code string for type 2 diabetes mellitus with diabetic nephropathy and neuropathy 5A11 forward slash GB61.Z forward slash HC03.0. 5A11 for type 2 diabetes mellitus, GB61.Z for chronic kidney disease stage unspecified, HC03.0 is for diabetic polyneuropathy. The final code string explains type 2 diabetes mellitus complicated by nephropathy and neuropathy. Here is another scenario. Search term renders stem code with extension or other stem code. Automated indexing of post coordination dimension for course-in condition. In a previous example, you remember we found automated indexing for laterality. And in this example, you find automated indexing for course-in condition. Type 2 diabetes mellitus with diabetic foot. As you all can see in this diagnosis, the doctor has used abbreviations. Instead of using the full term type 2 diabetes mellitus, he has entered T2DM, and coding tool recognizes this abbreviation as the code for type 2 diabetes mellitus. So you get the automated indexing BD54 forward slash 5A11, BD54 for diabetic foot ulcer, diabetic foot, and 5A11 for type 2 diabetes mellitus. This is another scenario. Search term renders stem code with mandatory post coordination. Red plus icon, coding note, green icon. Red plus icon for mandatory post coordination and coding note for green icon. MDR, multi-drug resistant mycobacterium tuberculosis. As you know, this is an abbreviation, but coding tool is able to identify this abbreviation and help us with coding. And there is a coding note. You can just read the coding note. Coding note explains these categories should never be used in primary coding. The codes are provided for use as supplementary or additional codes when it is desired to identify the resistant, non-responsiveness, and refractive properties of a condition to antimicrobials. And then there is red plus icon for mandatory post coordination. Another scenario, guidance for maternal coding. Yellow J icon. You remember in the previous video, we learned about yellow J icon. So this is a pregnant woman with essential hypertension. So we search for essential hypertension, and essential hypertension code is BA00.Z, but there is J icon, maternal J icon. So having known the woman is pregnant while she is having essential hypertension, so we can just look for click the J icon and you get the related categories in maternal chapter. So this is pre-existing essential hypertension complicating pregnancy, childbirth, or the puerperium. And then we have a code for essential hypertension as well, unspecified essential hypertension. So the maternal code is for JA20.0 for pre-existing essential hypertension complicating pregnancy. And essential hypertension code is BA00.Z. So when a pregnant woman is hospitalized with essential hypertension, they always, the code from the maternal chapter takes the precedence. Here is another example, guidance for perinatal coding, purple K icon. So this is a neonate with pneumonia, and we search for pneumonia and we find the code for pneumonia CA40.Z. However, there is purple K icon if the patient is a neonate. We click on the purple K icon and we find the instruction. This pneumonia should be coded to congenital pneumonia KB24. Okay, so having discussed different case scenarios, let me summarize what we have learned so far. We discussed blue highlighted stem code. So when you find the exact match, and then optional post coordination indicated by gray plus icon, and we discussed a couple of examples. Then mandatory post coordination with red plus icon when it is mandatory to post coordinate for additional information. Then green icon for a coding note. And then flexible search. We discussed a couple of examples for flexible search. So in the flexible search is necessary, you can click on the try flexible search. Then maternal J icon to indicate maternal codes. This is yellow J icon. And when the case is a perinatal condition occurring during the perinatal period, this is indicated by purple K icon. Okay, thank you very much. If you need more information about the content, so please contact someone. Thank you. We'll meet again in another video.